I have some great HOA stories for you today, and you're going to love that title story too. Here's our first one. I was elected on my building board after the death of a member. Median age on the board was 80. I was 40 and the building manager was around 30. Beautiful art decorated building full of very old owners. The older crowd wanted nothing to do with funding any repairs and pretty much ruled the board, but each unit that was sold was generally remodeled with younger owners, who mostly did not bother with board meetings, and there was tension. The elevator in my tier from 1938 finally completely broke, and it was not easily fixable, giving me the option of walking up 8 flights of stairs or using the service elevator and riding with the garbage trolley and everyone's dogs and laundry. At the next board meeting, I was so sick of hearing fixed income from these people that had used the elevators and everything else for 40 years without ever setting money aside for eventual replacement. And one old lady, who still had a functioning passenger elevator in her tier, kept interrupting to tell us that we should just be happy to use the service elevator and to understand that residents couldn't afford any extra money. The building literally didn't have the funds to address the issue, and a 7-figure special assessment was needed. The next week, the property manager, who was also just over it all, sent out a notice that the other passenger elevator had broken and repairs were not able to be made, and that we would all be using the service elevator. She included the schedule the custodian had for garbage removal and a note that dogs would no longer be allowed on the elevator between 7:30 to 10 a.m. and 4:30 to 7 p.m. It was a mass chaos, with one creepy old service elevator for 90 apartments and people having to ride with the giant garbage can. After maybe a week or two, the service elevator, which had been modernized to not be from the 30s but still dated to 1970, stopped working. This really was an issue, leaving some people effectively stranded in their apartments. Another memo went out letting people know that repairs would take several days and that garbage pickup was suspended, asking residents to carry their own garbage down with them. An emergency board meeting was called, and a few hours before that meeting, the main pressure pump for the water failed, leaving people above the 5th floor with just dribbles of water and the inability to flush the toilets. The entire thing was just a crap show, and as the majority of the building met in the lobby, I was queasy, wondering what the heck was about to be decided. The building manager, to her credit, had her boss and her boss's boss there along with an attorney, letting the building know that the emergency funding had to be approved or they were going to cancel the management contracts and that the board was in violation of our state condo laws. One lady named Evelyn was the board president and lived on the 3rd floor and voiced her opinion that we had to let people with limited means take priority over building needs. I thought she was going to be murdered right there. We managed to halfway fix the elevator, and the experience forced the new owners to get involved with the HOA board and the elections and to attend meetings. Do you agree with this comment? This is an amazing story on so many levels. The lack of understanding about general maintenance, upkeep, and the absolute necessity of a reserve fund by some of your neighbors, and how wrong the last resident's comment is. The building needs are the needs of the residents, water, and the ability to get out. This is how something as extreme as Surfside happens. The idea that critical maintenance is a discretionary expense. It's not. If I lived in an HOA and I found out that they were putting me in danger to be cheap, oh boy, things would go crazy. What would you do? Oh, this Karen shopper makes fun of OP who has no filter and almost gets fired. Here we go. How I told a customer to go F themselves, but they had my back and saved my job. Posted by the Askew one. Guess who nearly got their butt fired? So, the last few days have been tough for reasons not related to work. I'm on edge and my trigger is shorter than the usual. I'm nearing the end of my shift. I'm tired. We're understaffed, my back aches, and there are long lines at the registers. I mean, a kid is having a tantrum, it's chaos, and that's the moment when my manager decides to pull me away from the customer service desk because there's been a spill, and Bradley is new and doesn't seem to be able to clean it by himself. Thing is, I'm alone at the customer service desk running returns that won't process for no reason. There are 4 people waiting, and they look like they're ticked, and rightfully so. We've been so understaffed lately that customer service has been crap. There's a guy who's in the line, and he has been for at least 10 minutes. That's how good our customer service has become, and he overhears my manager asking me to take care of the spill. He goes, "Hey, what about you don't ask the special needs guy to clean? It's gonna take forever." That's when I hear myself answer, "Hey, how about you go screw yourself?" A few very long seconds of deadly silence, my manager looking at me in horror, and I'm just here with my mouth still open and dying inside. Karen customer says, "Fair enough." I said, "I'm sorry, I don't know what possessed me. I apologize. I'm really sorry." Customer says, No, fair enough. I shouldn't have called you special needs. It was very inappropriate. I deserved it. That wasn't a thing to say. Actually, well, I apologize. Don't worry about it. We all have a short fuse at times. Actually, that was rather funny." I reply, "Well, sir, I can just say it's not how I do customer service usually. Again, I apologize." Thankfully, his wife or girlfriend, who was waiting nearby, found the situation hilarious too, and that helped defuse everything. The customer went to talk to my manager, who seemed to be under shock, and asked him not to chew my butt out because he had said something inappropriate first, and we all make mistakes. Needless to say, I thanked him profusely. My manager sent me to clean the spill and then called me to the office. I got a write-up, but I'm not being fired. We all write to complain about bad customers, so I thought it was only fair to mention how a good customer saved me from my own screw-up. And now I'm going to work on understanding why being called special needs made me irrationally angry. Loss Prevention wants us to put in service calls, posted by Cole Carmont. I work for a printing company, and as I tell a lot of people, much of my job is literally malicious compliance. People wanting things printed despite how they look, spelling and design errors, and just being plain ugly. This is another story that has come up these past 2 weeks. A while ago, one of the other locations absolutely destroyed one of their printers. Toner everywhere. The finisher unit was a hunk of plastic and metal, and I genuinely don't know what they did to the machine, but it was screwed up beyond all recognition based on the photo, especially since the toner cartridge is not in that finisher unit. An investigation took place, and it was discovered that rather than calling in printer technicians to repair the machines, some of the company employees were repairing them instead. A company-wide message went out essentially telling everyone not to repair or perform maintenance on the machine ourselves. Genuinely, common sense things had to be put on paper because someone did something stupid. We were always supposed to put in service calls to the techs to come and take care of the machines, or we will be brought to HR. 3 months later, last week, 2 guys from Loss Prevention, who we'll be calling Tweedledum and Tweedledummer, came in to do a regular check-in. Everything was going great, until I needed to change the paper in one of the printers. Tweedledum approached me and basically began raking me over the coals, saying that only technicians can open the machines. Of course, I am dumbfounded, because all I'm doing is changing the paper, but I just shrug and say, "Sorry, won't happen again." Well, the next day, I was brought into a meeting with HR over a video call, basically wagging their finger at me. My boss, D, took the fall for me and said that he was the one to tell me to change the paper, so I got off scot-free, and D only got a slap on the wrist, thankfully so, as this would have been my second write-up in 2 months. The first was a stupid but legitimate mistake on my part. However, as a result of this, the whole facility went into malicious compliance mode after that meeting. Need to change out the paper trays? Service call. Paper jam? Better put in a service call. Need to change the toner? That's a service call. Our output of jobs last week was absolutely in the toilet. Machines were down for nearly 90% of the shifts. The techs were having a field day, however, as they got paid per call they took. While our backlog is through the roof, we were able to make our point eventually. I am not sure exactly what had been happening in the background, but today I received a handwritten apology from Tweedledum and Tweedledummer with a $50 Visa gift card saying that they didn't understand what our job required when they reprimanded me and referred me to HR. We are back at full capacity now and have a huge backlog to catch up on. I'm hoping, in addition to this gift card, I can also get in some approved overtime for some extra spending money on an upcoming trip that I have planned. The company that I work for may be dim at times, but at least they often admit when they make a mistake. Update 1. So I learned a bit more about the situation. The loss prevention people that were involved were the ones directly dealing with the loss of the destroyed printer, and there turned out to be a misunderstanding about everything. My other co-workers in the copy center have gotten into the habit of putting excess paper in the opposite side of the paper tray as storage. Now, the tray can hold up to 12 by 18 paper, so when there's 8.5 by 11 in there, they use the extra space for storage. The techs in D have told them not to do that as they can damage the machine. Whenever I see the excess paper, I take it out. That's what loss protection saw and why they reprimanded me in the first place. They assumed, since I was working with the machines, I was the one who put that extra paper in. I learned this when the company assigned Karen was written up and made it rather vocal today. The problem with working with a good company like this is that it takes way too long to get rid of problem employees. Now, this story really drives home the point of how important it is to set the right example for kids and grandkids. You'll see what I mean. Karen and Ken galore in the adventures of shutting down a taco truck, posted by Fear Factory 007. My sister, 14-year-old female, recently just graduated the 8th grade and will be starting life in her dream high school after summer vacation. I am beyond proud of her and was there for every step of stress that she may have, same as my parents. During the final few weeks of school, my sister's teacher and our dad helped set up a full fun beach day in one of the more beautiful beaches in my city that didn't have a whole lot of restaurants, minus Starbucks and vending machines across the ways, so they also arranged for a taco food truck that has been rented for school functions prior. I wasn't able to go since there was no room in the car as my folks were carpooling as well, and I didn't fully feel like going as it wasn't for me. But this was all fine, as I'm getting ready to hopefully move out into my own place in a year or so. So my folks said this was kind of like a practice round of me living by myself. I've been home alone many times before, but this was a lot more fun than waiting a few hours until someone comes home from work. I did some chores, cooked some lunch, made a grocery list and fed the dogs. Then I did the laundry and the usual adult lifestyle. The only difference of this and when I live alone is the dogs would be out. My family was gone from 9 to 10 a.m. to around 3 to 4 p.m., and when they arrived, my dad helped me go to the store where I bought things for dinner and soda, just because I'm a big soda junkie, and I'm not going to lie about that. Upon arriving back and my sister finishing taking a shower from a full day in the beach, I was told of the events that followed. Scene starts: the beach. As I mentioned, the beach they went to is beautiful, mainly because unlike other beach areas, there wasn't any homeless people living in the area thanks to their safety measures, which is basically those spiky benches and a bridge that you can only drive on. You can't even ride bikes on it. This was also because the place the beach was at is kind of snobbish. My dad said that he's never seen a whiter neighborhood in our state ever, which is a kind of shock because of where we live, but also because of what happens later. It makes it a whole lot worse. Enter scene: students and taco truck. My sister's entire class was, as any other class today, mixed race from several different generations of families and culture. My sister's school was very open on not making people feel outcast in anything, teaching my sister Hebrew and letting them learn different religions being the few things that they did to make it all inclusive. In today's world, it isn't really or should be a shock to see a bunch of kids of different races hanging out together on the beach with their parents. The taco truck arrived and quickly started getting business with the parents and the students and teachers, with amazing meals. I actually had the same truck's food during one school event that I visited. It's bomb. and that things were all peaceful and fun in the sun during the summer with high school in the future. Interstage left, the cops. Also interstage left, the Karens. Everyone was apparently having a good time when two policemen walked over to the area and talked to my sister's teacher and our dad and those of the group who helped set this day up. According to the men in blue, there has been some complaint calls from the locals of a food truck selling food without a permit and loud noises. Now, in my city, you can get a permit for selling food, but if you have a tent or a table or a grill, but if it's a food truck, you don't need it unless you're parked in a park or near an area that's busy, like a hospital or a library. And also, a noise complaint on kids at the beach during a weekend when the beach has other people in it too? When questioning the logic, the cops got snippy to the teacher who was really just trying to find the root of the problem and explain what this is. As my dad said, the cop was straight yelling at the poor man, trying to make a good memory for his students. My mom, however, wasn't going to let this slide with a whimper. Oh no, my mother is a petty queen. Interstage right, my mom. Me and my sisters, we love the dramatic and theatrics that came straight from our mom, who got it from her mom. We love true crime and we love petty things with only a small drabble of tiny guilt-tripping petty. So, enter my mom listening to what's going down and hearing the cops demand they remove this taco truck, or else their beach would be like the other beach that has some homeless people in New York City. No offense to New Yorkers, I hear it's nice. And her response was, looking at the kids, seeing only 5% of the students actually got tacos, turned to the officers and asked, "So, do you want to tell these kids they won't be fed?" The cops stammer and try to say that it's not what he meant until he caved and allowed the kids to eat, but the truck will be locked up as soon as the last kid gets his taco. The line formed, the kids got delicious tacos, and then the truck was packed up and left. The mood was, for obvious reasons, sour after that, and everyone ate and they packed up and just left the beach. Scene end. I'm honestly more so annoyed at the hostility my sister's class got over a beach party. There was no way to know if there were rules, and even if there were, someone would have brought it up and not call the cops, or the cops would politely explain. Not to mention my dad and mom mentioned how they were pretty hostile towards some of the parents, but as soon as the white parents stepped in, their tones were less of, "I will cuff you right now." You will not be able to make it through this story without losing faith in humanity, okay? Here it is. It's called You Forgot Your Baby, posted by UBT400. Let the Karens begin. Years ago, I worked at a liquor store. Needless to say, when you work in retail of a controlled substance, you've seen everything. One time, I was at the register. I was wrestling with the receipt printer or something behind the counter. I ducked under the counter to fiddle with the cord when I heard the bell of a door. I looked up to say, "Good morning." There was a woman with a baby on her hip, maybe a 7 or 8 month old. I let her know that I was there to help and answer questions if needed, and went back to fiddling under the counter. I heard her approach, but then walk away without saying anything. Next thing I know, little hands are grabbing at my hair. I look up and her baby is on the counter. The mother is nowhere nearby. I quickly grabbed the baby and sat them on the counter so it wouldn't crawl anymore or fall off of the counter, and then I looked around. The mother was a few aisles away at that point. I was more than a little stunned and called out, "Ma'am, you forgot your baby." She turned to me and said something to the liking of, you said that you would help? It's easier to shop while I'm not holding him, duh." I told her there were shopping carts that had baby seats. Please use them. I don't want to be responsible for her child. She rolled her eyes and grabbed 2 bottles of whatever the heck and came back to the counter. She paid, picked up her child, and left. She didn't even tell me she was leaving the kid at the counter, just sat them down and walked away without a word. I know, if that baby fell, she would have blamed or tried to sue me. The HOA towed me, but I'm not even in the HOA. Should I press charges? Click the video on your screen so you don't miss this awesome story, and I'll see you there.